Hi, I want to a quick overview of the upcoming ID and Eco next patch on Thursday in Limbus Company. We're gonna start off with the Featstar Mersault ID. Here's the DC South Section 4 Director. So you will buff all the other DC IDs in your team while you run him. And how does he do it? He does it with Erudition. When discarding a skill, gain erudition times X% of this unit's max HP as shield, and if this unit discards a skill at X plus insight, gain clash power. So this is a buff that when you discard, you gain more shield, which already DC Bodion and DC Isang have plenty of, and also will make them clash better. The clash better comes kind of the drawback that the unit needs to discard the skill, and DC Honglu doesn't really want to discard once he's at inside 3. So we will see if the buff actually changes how you would play Honglu in focused encounters. If not, it's still a buff in normal standard encounters to him too. And being extra tanky never hurts. Also, what's interesting about this buff is that it seems it doesn't get reduced after the turn end. Instead, it gets reduced when taking HP damage after getting hit by an enemy's attack skill and fully expires when staggered. So as long as you clash well and don't get hit, it should be easy to build up a lot of erudition on your units, which maybe means huge shields depending on at how much percentage this gets capped off. Now, starting off looking at the skills. His skill 1 is a 2-coin skill, and very interestingly, if this one gets discarded, he gains shield, depending on the insight he has right now. On use, he discards a skill, and he gains insight minus X clash power. I mean, I assume it's probably -1, that would make sense. On clashing, then he gains erudition on himself and he inflicts some sinking count. Now to skill 2. Also 2 coins. Gains more damage for every X insight on himself. And at combat start he applies erudition equal to insight on himself and 2 other random allies. But it prioritizes allies with discard, so it won't get wasted on anyone else in your team, and it would go to the DC IDs. I guess slight edge case is Mole IDs also have discard, and it would also put erudition on them. I mean, they still profit from the HP shield, they just wouldn't gain any clash power since they cannot gain insight. So small edge case, but I kinda doubt he would really run the Mole IDs in combination with the DC IDs. On use, he discards 2 skills, and he gains coin power for every X sinking on target. On hit, we inflict sinking equal to insight times X. I would assume it's probably times 2, so at 3 insight it would be 6 sinking potency. I guess at best maybe 3, but 9 sinking potency on a skill 2 sounds like a lot, so I would assume 2. Now, skill 3 is where the meat's at. You deal more damage for every X insight on self. Well, ideally 3. On use, gain coin power for every X sinking on target. And before attack, you consume all the addition on self and gain the same value as additional insight. This is kinda huge and interesting. So far, insight was kinda capped at 3, since the highest skill you can discard is a skill 3. With erudition, we will go above that. Sadly, after attack, we set the value to 1 again. And if we defeat an enemy, we will set the value to Y instead. I assume it's probably 3, it would make the most sense. Then on a hit, we inflict sinking potency / count equal to insight against the target. How much of that sinking is potency or count is manually determined. So if you have overall insight of 10, might be something like 8 potency and 2 counts. You will never really tell with it, which is slight drawback. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't say it's too hard to keep single count on enemy with all the new support we got this season, but it's always neat if you can plan ahead, and you can't really plan ahead with how much counter potency you gain with this skill. But it should still apply a huge amount, so still decent. Then his defense skill, this just discards a skill if you use it, and he also gains aggro on his skill slot next turn. He should have lost a shield test from his buff and also discarding his skill 1, so him being able to tank a bit makes sense. Now his passive is also huge. Every time other allies discard skill, apply X erudition to self and the ally. I assume it's probably 2, maybe 3. Probably not too huge, but yeah, every time someone in your team just discards both that ID and Mersault will get erudition, so really easy to stack erudition up to mega huge shields. And on turn end, Mersault also gains piercing damage up and blunt damage up, equal to the number of other allies to discard skills. I would assume at most probably would be that you bring Dieci Rodion and Dieci Honglu. You could also bring Dieci Yisang, but I think Spice plus Yisang should still be better, and if you own it, you should bring him instead. So I guess you would start every turn with more or less 2 pierce damage and blunt damage up. That sounds pretty neat. So Mersault is on one hand very tanky, but should at least be able to dash out a lot of damage with his skill 3 once he got powered up thanks to erudition. The support passive, when one ally with the highest max HP discards a skill, gain X times discarded skill rank percentage of max HP as shield. If the ally has insight, multiplied above shield value by X. So this passive will be worth it if you just bring Dieci Rodion to make her shields even huger. Could also slightly buff the Mola IDs and make them more tanky, but I feel like there's still no reason to do this. And yeah, I assume he will be stable in sinking teams as long as you bring Dieci Honglu and Dieci Rodion, which you already should be doing. So a pretty neat addition. Then let's move on to this thing everyone has been waiting for. The new Ryoshu Waff Ego, Contempt Awe. Right off the bat we see we have a 2-coin Ego once again. The floodgates are opened. I guess Project Moon doesn't really have a problem anymore with giving us multiple coin Egos at this point. Before attack, we gain attack rate depending on the highest resonance. So it can be pretty decent AoE if you can set up a last resonance, and with how this ego works, you really want to build up a last resonance. Also before attack we gain highest resonance plus X Gaze of Contempt this turn and next turn. What is Gaze of Contempt? It's a buff that makes us deal more damage for every Gaze of Contempt on self. It expires after the turn end, but if we have enough Gaze of Contempt on ourselves, it gets converted to Contempt of the Gaze instead. Contempt of the Gaze instead of damage gives us protection and damage down. Also gives one of the unit skill slots aggro to be tanky. And one thing to point out, we cannot gain Gaze of Contempt as long as Contempt of the Gaze is active, so there's not a real reason to keep spamming the ego over and over again. Also expires after one turn. So if we have a low resonance, we gain damage up this turn and next turn. If we have a high resonance, we gain a lot of damage up this turn, and next turn we will get high protection instead with the damage down. If the skill was part of a last resonance, gain ego resources and affinities corresponding to each of this unit's attack skills. So if you made a last resonance. This will refund some ego resources. Kind of really curious how high the cost will be for this, since this ego will be very efficient in building up ego resources once you've used it once. Also, after attack for 2 turns, lose SP at turn end. This is nothing new. Normally on other Wrath egos we see that for 3 turns you lose SP at turn end. So I assume instead of costing 10 SP and then losing 10 SP over time, it probably will cost 20 SP to use, and we will lose 10 SP every turn for 2 turns instead to get to the 40 cost. We will see. After attack, evenly inflict X bleed between all targets. So either we just target one boss and put a lot of bleed potency, I at least assume, on it, or if we fight a lot of smaller enemies, we just split up all this bleed, and at least we applied bleed to everyone. So yeah, either we can set up big bleed turns or make it easier to the other units in our team to clash and get damaged up against units, since they will have bleed on them after that ego use. Now the corrosion skill is indiscriminate and will target randomly, so gonna be fun if you see her corrode, but also pretty normal, most do it. Before attack, we gain Gaze of Contempt, so we don't really know how much, but it will hurt if you get attacked with it, I assume. After attack, if the skill was part of a last resonance, we once again gain ego resources, just like the normal skill. And on hit on that one coin, if the target has bleed, deal the sum of bleed potency and count percentage more damage. Depending on how high this can go and where the cap is, I could see you using this against bosses that you overclock the skill to have a high damage turn. But it's hard to tell right now. Also inflicts X plus highest resonance times Y bleed and inflict bleed count, so the corrosion skill should inflict a lot more bleed than the normal awakening skill. But I feel like the meat of this ego is in the passive, Mic of the Gaze. Whenever this unit uses a base attack skill against an enemy, gain additional ego resources for a random least owned affinity that doesn't correspond to the affinity of the attack skill used. So every time we will attack with Ryoshu afterwards with a normal skill, we gain 2 ego resources, and the second ego resource we gain is of the least owned affinity. That will be a huge boon in resonance teams to gain more ego resources for the, since you don't really have much in your team, since you're concentrating on that one sin. In that case it probably would be lust, especially since, yeah, this is lust and we have other good lust bleeding egos that also want high resonance, so it will be a huge buff that way. Very useful in content like the current wave, where you have multiple wave fights, so you just use it once at the start and gain so much more ego resources. So yeah, pretty interesting, probably pretty strong, and you want it. I think also one thing to point out about this ego is that it will be a seasonal ego, so if you want to shard it, you need to shard it this season, or you will have to wait 2 seasons till you can shard it again. And who wouldn't want to shard this Ryoshu? On who would you use it? You probably would use it on Kurokumo Ryoshu or Chef Ryoshu. She kinda already has 2 decent ideas for bleeding. They both already have lust, and this should be a great addition to any of those 2. Yeah, and that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.